Hey, friends. Welcome to Boldly You, the podcast for inspiring stories which consist of daring choices and transformative journeys. From entrepreneurs to everyday heroes, we are exploring the messy and motivating sides of making big changes. Whether it's a career leap or something deep, Boldly You is your go-to for living life unapologetically bold. Now, let's get right into it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Boldly You podcast. It's me, your host, Destiny Mackey, here with another solo episode. I hope you have been enjoying the guest episodes so far. I'm really loving being able to understand other people's stories and just be able to connect with other people because, let's face it, we all have a story to share. We all have something that we've went through, and we all have a story that can inspire and motivate others. I truly believe that. But in between, I would like to do some of these solo episodes. I certainly do plan to talk a lot about personal things and struggles that I've shared. I want to talk about my own stories and lessons that I've learned in between, but they're all going to be a little bit different. I just feel like I've gone through so much in my life. I could just talk about so many different things and I can relate to so many different things. Obviously, there's some things that I haven't gone through, but I have gone through quite a bit. And so I hope you can learn something from what I've gone through the things that I've learned, and take something from it and really use it as a tool to benefit your own life, because I wish I knew some of these things sooner. But honestly, everything happens in its own way, in its own timing for a reason. And if I didn't go through something, I wouldn't have learned how to overcome it. So that's kind of how I look at issues. But today we're going to talk about a topic that is actually super important and near and dear to me. And I know so many people face and are challenged with every single day. And it is about boundaries. Having boundaries. But first, let's talk about what boundaries are. So you can have boundaries with other people and you can have boundaries with yourself. They are essentially rules and guidelines that you use with yourself and with other people in order to protect yourself or in order to keep yourself happy. And there's multiple examples of what boundaries are. Maybe it's, not allowing yourself to drink alcohol every week. Or maybe it's telling a friend that they can come to your party, but you can't stay for very long and you shouldn't feel pressured to stay really late. There's all different kinds of boundaries. But one of the things that I feel like I still hear and see is this idea of being nice. Now, I know we are all raised to be nice people. Everybody wants to put on a good face. Everybody wants to be liked. They want to be agreeable. They want to be relatable. And so we feel like we have to be nice all the time. But what does nice entail? Well, usually nice people lack boundaries. When you really look at it, nice people lack boundaries. And I'm going to give you an example of this. So when I was younger, I felt like I always wanted to be a nice person. I wanted to prove to others that I was nice. And so I was constantly overexerting myself with activities or errands or whatever was asked of me. And I felt like I had to say yes all the time. I always had to say yes to a request. And even if I didn't really want to do it or I really didn't have the energy to do it, I still felt that pressure to say yes, and I had to go do it. You do not have to. And I didn't learn that until so much later. Now I observe this in other people. Like, there are some people at work who are nice, and people think that they are so very nice. And when I observe them, they are nice because typically whenever they are asked to do something, they say yes and they do it. Or if they have to switch something up in their schedule or in the way that they're working, they'll go with it. And that's really what a lot of people associate being nice with. It means that you set your own needs and wants aside for the pleasure and happiness of others. I know I am a good person. I know that I can be a nice person, but you are not going to walk all over me. I am not going to do things that I don't want to do or do not fulfill me or don't make me feel good just to be nice. Right? Right. But this change in me certainly did not happen overnight. Oh no. Oh no. This has taken me a very long time to understand, right? There's a lot of beliefs that are drilled into your head when you're a young child. I know I experienced mine from family, like family requests. I always felt like I had to do something for a family member just because they were family, or I was told that I needed to do something because it would make a family member happy and I would be a good whatever niece, daughter, granddaughter, whatever it is. And so a lot of that is drilled into us. I know a lot of us hear those things and feel like, oh, well, you have to do this. It's your family. Of course, you're going to go ahead and give up your time and your date and your event and your this and that for your family member. You have to. They're family. You don't. You certainly do not. Okay. But again, back to I didn't know this for a long time. And when I started going to therapy, I started to unpack why I did these things. I always felt like I was constantly doing things for other people and I wasn't getting the same type of support in return. And I was like, I guess, I'm just a really nice person and the other people are just really not nice people. But that's not the truth. They just had better boundaries than I did. And they weren't afraid to say no. And they weren't afraid to express that they didn't want to do something. But I did. I certainly did because I grew up into this idea of being nice. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be agreeable. But it always backfired. And it's like, what was the point? You know? And I would get so angry at other people because I'm like, how can you do that? Like I've done all this stuff for you, but you won't do it for me in return. It's a very backwards way of thinking. It's kind of a selfish way of thinking too, but I didn't intend for it to be selfish. It was just that was kind of the wiring in my mind. And that's what I thought everybody was supposed to do. Like this idea of being nice, right? But I have learned that you do not have to say yes to everything. You do not have to say yes to every request. And as I started unpacking that in therapy, they were asking me questions like, well, why do you think they have to do this for you? Why do you think that they have to give up their time of day to help you out? And when they started framing those questions to me, I started to look at it a little bit differently. But again, this took many years to overcome. I did not honestly, I didn't start thinking this way until maybe up to 2, maybe almost 3 years ago. This didn't click in my head. But now that it does, I'm like, God, I spent so much of my time and energy giving it to other people when I really should have been putting it towards myself. And now I'm at the point in my life where I am finally doing that. I am not accepting requests and things from people that I don't want to do. I am not telling people yes when I'd rather say no. And it has been so liberating. And I feel like I've had more energy than ever in my life, like emotional energy. I recognize that we all have different things going on in our life, and we all have different belief systems that we are raised with. And one of the hardest parts of setting these boundaries and finally saying no has been that people think you are mean, right? Like, Ugh, I used to think this way about other people, and now they think this way about me. Like now I'm the mean person because for once in my life, I am putting my foot down. And so the initial guilt of dealing with that when you start saying no to these requests has been honestly so hard because you're fighting that internal conflict again where you want to be liked and you want to be agreeable and you don't like disappointing people and making people feel upset. But also, the other player that comes into this is that you are certainly going to make people upset. And it is not your job to fix their thinking of you. It's not. There are going to be people that do not agree with you, that do not like you, that think you're being mean, but honestly, you just have to move on and accept that that's going to happen anyways. So, I've had a lot of that since I've started setting my boundaries and saying no. And oh, I felt so bad. Like the very first month when I started doing it, I felt like so guilty. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a bad person and I feel like a horrible person. But over time, as you do it more and more, it starts to become easier and easier and easier. And even though to this day I still get called cold hearted and selfish, I do not care. I do not care because I know deep down I'm not being cold hearted. I am not being selfish. I am simply taking care of myself. That's really what it comes down to. I am protecting myself. Here's the thing, we are all here on this earth to live our own lives. We do not exist for other people. We do not exist to be servants and helpers and slaves to other people. We are here for ourselves. We're here to learn and grow for ourselves. This is the only body that we have. And this is the only vessel that we have that is carrying us through life to enjoy things, to love, to make friends. Why wouldn't we want to put that time and energy back into ourselves so we can continue to do this? There's nothing wrong with helping people occasionally. That is certainly not what I'm trying to say. But you don't have to overexert yourself for everything all the time. You don't. If you genuinely feel like you have a friend who needs support and needs help in a deep moment, and you know that you are good, you are caught up in your life, and you have no major events that you need to work through, there's nothing wrong with helping your friend. There's nothing wrong. But if you feel like you are going to fail something, or if it's going to screw up your life or screw up your schedule, and you really just feel like, I cannot do this, it is okay to walk away from it. It is certainly okay to walk away from it. I have had so many situations personally in my life where I gave up my time and energy for people that I'm not even close to anymore. And I think back to it and I was like, gosh, I was so naive to do that. I was just so caught up in wanting to be a good friend, a good person, a good family member that I sacrificed so much, so many things that I shouldn't have. I know I have done this actually. I've had a few friends in college that I sacrificed so much of my time and energy, and sometimes I even sacrificed my grades for these friends, and they ended up not even being good friends to me or for me. I I'm not exaggerating that either. There was literally a certain situation that I went through with a friend where I had a really big test the next day and I have a learning disability, ADHD, and so I already struggled with studying. And one of the things that I would do that helped me study was I literally would just rewrite my notes, and I had to be very conscious and slow about it, and it would literally take me hours to do. But I would rewrite my notes, and that's how I would study. And I dedicated this one day, it was right before the exam, to go and rewrite my notes. And one of my friends was having a really deep crisis that I felt partially to blame for, even though now I know it wasn't my fault and there was really nothing that I could do. I did the best I could in that situation, but I took a lot of guilt for it, and I felt like I had to help this person out deeply and try to fix their situation and comfort them. And I didn't study at all. I didn't study at all because it literally took me that whole day to comfort this friend. And later on, I found out that this friend lied to me about what had happened, or they misunderstood it at the time. I don't really know the situation. And I found out that this friend was saying mean things about me and lying to me about other things behind my back. And I'm no longer friends with this person. But I was very upset that I allowed myself to give up my educational safety for somebody else. And that is a prime example of how I was a people pleaser. Like, I would take on my friend's pain and suffering and make it my own and felt like I had to be the fixer. If something like that were to happen today, I would certainly help when I can, but I would not take it on as much as I did back then. And I think I ended up failing that test too. I can't remember exactly what grade I got on it, but it definitely wasn't good. And yeah, so I have a lot of regrets with those type of things, but I never want to do that again. I never want to put myself in that situation because it didn't matter to that person about what my grades were, but it only mattered to me. And I'm the only person that can carry myself through to the next level, to be a better person, to grow, to get better grades. And I allowed myself to be invested in somebody else's life for their own mistakes and their own wrongdoings. And I certainly don't want to be that person anymore. I can't be that person anymore. As much as it still hurts to see somebody that you love and care about suffer and go through difficult things, it is still their responsibility to take care of that situation for themselves. It is their responsibility to be responsible for their own life, like it is for mine. And it's really hard to watch people we love in that type of car crash. Like, you see the car crash happening and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. But you can always be there to help comfort your friend and support them through that situation, but you cannot fix it for them. You can't. You cannot. And so in moments like that, it's made me realize that I don't want to be that nice person anymore. The sacrificer, the fixer. I don't want to be her anymore. And it's not healthy to be that person either. You can still be a very nice person and set boundaries and still save time for yourself and still rest and say no to things. You can still be a nice person and do all of that. I promise you. It doesn't matter if you make somebody uncomfortable because you decided that you wanted to listen to yourself and not be agreeable. It is not your job to comfort people. And the thing is, we all have different ways to feel comfortable. We all have different expectations and things that make us feel good. And it's not our job to be mind readers and do that for every single person. It's not. It is not. You are capable of setting boundaries and living a happy life. You are so capable. But it's up to you to allow yourself to see when and when not you're supposed to do those types of things. Like, really see them for what they are. I think that was another major issue I had. I couldn't see it for what it really was because, when you're raised to think to be nice and take care of everybody else, it's hard to see the other side because you think the other side is very mean and hateful and cold, but it's not. It's not. It's just taking care of yourself. It is. And a lot of people, I still get a lot of people that even in the content that I post in my videos, I get comments like, "Oh, that's very rude and selfish way of thinking." And you just have to kind of let it go and let those people figure it out for themselves and for them to understand that no, it's not being selfish. It's not being selfish or rude or self-centered. It's simply just taking care of yourself. But they probably came from the same exact background and maybe they didn't have the opportunity to get therapy and really work through these belief systems that they had regarding this situation. But yeah, there are people in my life that I consider nice and friendly, but they're still able to say no and they're still able to block you off when they need to. And they're still nice people. But even if I didn't think that they were nice, why should they care? Why should they care? They're living their life. They're existing for themselves. They're taking care of themselves. I hope this is all making a lot of sense because it's very exhausting to be a nice person. It really is. It's very exhausting to always have to be this nice persona. It's like you're being on all the time. Like you feel like you have to be this person that isn't fully truly you all the time. It's exhausting. It is so exhausting. I can't believe I did it for as long as I did. But it's really sad to still see people that I work with or just see out in public still feel like they have to live up to this persona, and they don't have to. They got to figure it out for themselves. Eventually, you get tired of doing the same things over and over again and not receiving anything back and wondering why other people are being so mean to you and why they aren't supporting you and helping you like the way that you help them. It is exhausting. It is a very exhausting cycle to go through. It is. You don't have to be a nice person. You don't have to be a mean person. You don't have to be a selfish person. You can just be a person. That's exactly what a person is. It is. You can exist solely as yourself, despite what other people might think about you or not think about you. And to me, that's what a nice person should look like anyway. That's what a nice person should look like. It's somebody who is willing to support you and help you when they are able to, but not all the time. If they're still able to take care of themselves and put themselves first when they're supposed to and taking care of all the major things in their own life, to me, that's a nice person. It is. And 10 years ago, I definitely wouldn't have said that, but I'm saying it now. But I hope you are able to resonate with this episode. It's something that I have struggled with for such a long time. And I know so many of you probably struggle with the same thing or have struggled with the same thing. But I encourage you to let down your guard, let down these expectations that you feel like you need to hold on to and you don't have to. Take care of yourself. Support your friends and family and loved ones when you can, but always put yourself first. You are only here for you. This is the only body and life that you have, so why wouldn't you put yourself first, you guys? What are we doing out here? And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you're interested in learning how to set better boundaries and let go of these deep expectations that you have, or even just build your self-esteem, I have a free 30-day challenge that you can sign up for on my website, destinymackie.com. And you get emails every single day with different tasks and things that you need to do in order to better set boundaries, build your self-esteem, feel confident. They're going to be different every single day. But it's a small step into taking control of your own life and letting go of that people-pleasing, nice person persona. So if you're interested, it's completely free. It's on my website. I encourage you to go check it out. But until then, thank you so much if you have been listening to the podcast regularly since it launched. But I hope you continue to be inspired and I hope you continue to choose to be bold going forward. And that's exactly what I am going to do myself through this podcast. So you all have a wonderful day, have a wonderful life, and we will see you on the next episode. And that's a wrap on another episode of Boldly You. I hope you're feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to make some bold moves in your own life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Connect with us on social media. Share your own bold moments, your challenges, and your victories. We want to hear from you. Until next time, this is Destiny Mackey, urging you to be you and be bold.